Have to always remember to be kind to one another. We're sisters, so we're always going to fight. That's what sisters do. Okay is the rite to passage to fuss and fight, but in the end, we're always there. Welcome back to Star Hush, where we spill the tea that's too hot for your group chat. Toni Braxton didn't just sing her way to the top. She straight up carried the whole Braxton clan on her back, and now she's finally letting it all out. Everything fans have been whispering about for years is getting confirmed. Toni was the backbone, the breadwinner, and the emotional anchor, and it's worn her down to the core physically and mentally since she was just a young girl. Toni was pushed to grow up fast. She wasn't just the star, she was the provider, the protector, the one making sure everybody else was good while barely holding herself together. And now she's done pretending behind the flashy lights of Braxton family values. The real story was brewing bitterness, entitlement, and a family. So, comfortable riding her wave that they didn't even notice she was sinking, she especially. Let's talk about Trina and Towanda, not just as Toni's sisters, but as key figures in the silent storm she has weathered for years. According to Toni, this was not just about crossed lines. It was deeper than that. These were boundaries not only ignored, but bulldozed. And what makes it worse? They did it with a sense of ease, as if her sacrifices were not already stretching her thin. Toni says they did more than lean on her. They took from her spirit, her peace, and her pockets. And somehow, even after all of that, made her feel like she was still falling short. That kind of hurt does not come with a quick fix. Money cannot patch the wounds that come from family who expect everything and give back very little. Not even the grace to say, "We see you." While the world was busy applauding the sisterhood, celebrating the unity, the togetherness, the glitz of family fame, Toni was behind closed doors, struggling to stay afloat. She was not just showing up emotionally, she was showing up financially, making sure the lights stayed on, the bills were paid, the love looked polished. And all the while, she was the one left gasping, barely holding herself together. It was not just about being the oldest. It was about being the safety net, the provider, the default solution for every crisis. Toni was expected to always be there, to sing through her pain, smile through her exhaustion, and breathe again on cue. For them. But behind that, resilience was a woman cracking under the weight of expectations that no one seemed willing to share. This is not just family drama. It is a lesson in boundaries, self-worth, and how even the strongest ones can be broken down when love is taken for granted. Family drama is rarely just about what happens today. It is the result of years of unresolved hurt, quiet sacrifices, and unspoken expectations. Sometimes the real tension lies with the one who made it out, the one who broke the mold, chased the dream, and carried the hopes of everyone else. And yet, no matter how high they rise, there is often a silent guilt that follows. The feeling that you owe your wings to those who never got to fly. That is exactly where Toni Braxton found herself. She has said it herself. She wants to lift her sisters up. She wants to see them soar. But somewhere, Toni Braxton, the icon, the beauty, the voice, looked like she had it all. But the spotlight does not always show the shadows. While fans saw the Grammys and gowns, Toni was waking up with a weight in her chest, a heavy, lingering sadness that no award could erase. She was performing while silently pleading for peace. She was surrounded by applause, but starved of emotional freedom. For years, she held her family together like glue, but who held her? But here's the twist that hurts the most. After all the sold-out shows, the chart-topping albums, and being the glue that held everything together, emotionally and financially, Toni was left with far less than what she gave. She was the foundation, the spotlight, and the safety net. Yet, when the dust settled, her bank account did not reflect the empire she helped build. We are talking about a woman who helped move over 170 million records. Yet somehow, there came a moment when her balance was just 1,972. Yes, you read that right. Not a typo. That number is real, and it is heartbreaking. To understand how we got here, you have to go back, all the way to Severn, Maryland. One small house, one gospel-singing mother, 6 kids with voices full of dreams, and a household too tiny to contain them all. Toni was the eldest, and with that title came an unspoken shift. The moment her talent started to shine, everything changed. The dream was no longer just hers. It became theirs. She was not just chasing stardom, she was chasing a better life for everyone. And in that process, the weight of the family's hopes, needs, and expectations quietly landed on her shoulders. It was not just music, it was responsibility, it was sacrifice, and at times, it was exploitation dressed up as love. Toni Braxton gave the world timeless music, unforgettable performances, and a legacy carved in gold. But behind that legacy is a story about how even the brightest stars can be dimmed by the very people they are trying to lift up. It all changed the day their mother was rushed to the hospital after a serious accident. And she stayed there, for what felt like forever. That moment did more than shake the family. It shattered Toni Braxton's childhood. There was no slow transition from little girl to young woman. It happened overnight. One day she was singing into a hairbrush, dreaming like any other kid her age. The next, she was stepping into shoes far too big for her years, not because she wanted to, but because someone had to. While other children played outside and worried about nothing more than cartoons and schoolyard games, Toni was inside, making sure her siblings were safe, fed, and warm. She became the quiet force that held the household together. She was no longer just the big sister. She was the cook, the caretaker, the comforter, the one making sure the family stayed afloat. She carried that responsibility not with resentment, but with quiet resilience. But the cost? It was heavy. She never really got to be a child. Their father, meanwhile, was doing what he could, working long hours, grinding to keep the bills, paid and the lights on. But emotional presence was in short supply. The day-to-day nurturing, the hands, she did not need to name names. She did not have to. Her message was loud enough between the lines. The way she described the constant financial bleeding, the emotional weight of being everyone's fallback plan, it became painfully clear who she was referring to. It was not just about money. It was about being constantly leaned on while never being asked how she was holding up. It was about watching her success be treated like a bottomless resource, not a hard-earned reward. And while Toni never came out swinging or aired the family's business in every interview, her silence said plenty. The weariness in her voice, the cracks in her carefully composed image, they told the truth she had hidden for too long. This was not just a case of sibling support gone too far. This was a pattern, one that left her drained, disrespected, and dangerously close to losing herself in the process. Towanda and Trina might not have been called out by name at first, but make no mistake, Toni's message hit home, and it hit hard. What truly hurt her was not just the money lost. It was the fact that her own sisters expected a paycheck just for standing next to her, just for sharing space in her spotlight. That kind of betrayal cuts deeper than a bounced check. It fractures trust, pride, and family roots. And then there was Tamar, the sister known for her fire, her boldness, her no-filter attitude. Turns out she was also the one quietly stepping in, helping cover expenses without ever asking for anything in return. That was not drama. That was loyalty in its purest form. While others saw Toni's success as a resource to tap into, Tamar saw it as something to protect. Toni once said, "If they weren't leaning on me all the time, who knows how far I could have gone." That one sentence held decades of pain. And now, the cracks that were once hidden beneath red carpets and TV smiles are splitting wide open. The Braxton family's tightly guarded secrets, the ones buried under layers of glitz and sisterhood, are spilling out. Tamar tried to sound the alarm years ago, warning that everything was not as picture-perfect as it seemed. And now, Toni's stuck in the middle of a storm that's far from over. It is not just a rough patch. It is a downpour of emotional exhaustion, financial burden, and physical weariness. And through it all, she has been trying to keep her head up in an industry that demands your soul and gives crumbs in return. Because let us talk facts. Toni Braxton was not just famous. She was iconic. She helped define an entire era of R&B. But when she needed her people the most, they treated her like she was just a paycheck. The love she gave was not always returned, and the disrespect she endured, it was relentless. People love to assume success equals security. She sold over 170 million records. She must be set for life, right? Not even close. Toni was paid 35 cents per album. That is not a typo. That is the system. That is exploitation. She was feeding executives, building brands, and keeping the light. Knew that there was a certain amount of money coming in and X exactly, and you overspent that amount of money. Well, I was doing math. 1 + 1 is 2 all day long, all across the fallout from that Oprah interview. It hit Toni like a wrecking ball. Public opinion flipped almost overnight, and suddenly folks weren't showing her love. They were questioning her all over again. But here's where it gets even shadier. Word in the streets is Oprah didn't just host that interview. She allegedly tipped off Toni's label ahead of time. Yep, insiders. Can you imagine going on national TV, hoping for understanding, and instead realizing the host may have warned your label you were about to speak your truth? That is the word on the street, that Oprah allegedly gave Toni's label a heads up, saying she might spill some uncomfortable truths. And instead of standing in solidarity with the woman sitting across from her, Oprah appeared to side with the very executives who had drained Toni for years. That interview was supposed to be a moment of truth and healing, a safe space. But it turned into a cold, public betrayal. It did not just sting. It knocked the wind out of her career. Still, Toni did what she had always done, dusted herself off and kept pushing forward. But then, life delivered a devastating hit in 2010. Out of nowhere, she was diagnosed with microvascular angina and lupus, 2 life-threatening conditions that turned her world upside down. As if the pain and fatigue were not enough, those diagnoses forced her to cancel one of the biggest shows of her career, her Las Vegas residency. That residency was not just another gig. It was her financial lifeline, her comeback stage. But just like that, it was gone. And the heartbreak did not stop there. Her insurance did not cover the cancellation, not a single cent. So every single expense, the stage crew, the band, the dancers, the lighting, the venue, the hotels, the flights, it all came back to Toni, and she had to pay it all herself, out of pocket. All that money, time, and planning vanished. And with no backup, no one to lean on, she stood alone, again, to carry the weight. There was no escaping. Toni had no choice but to file for bankruptcy once again. She admitted, "I let my finances become everyone else's," and that's how she ended up in this mess. Just when she thought life had nothing more to throw at her, it piled on even more. In 2010, Toni's financial nightmare took a darker turn. The IRS and the California Franchise Tax Board, like unwanted party crashers, came knocking, demanding their cut. It wasn't a simple visit. It was an all-out tax assault. On December 4th, the IRS slapped Toni with a federal lien, claiming she owed $340,252 filming Braxton family values without any flying heels or table-flipping moments. Honestly, it's a feat that deserves some kind of scientific recognition. The tension among the Braxton sisters is so thick you could cut it with a knife. From blocking each other on social media to airing their grievances in public, the family dynamic has become a full-on war zone. And guess who's feeling the weight of it the most? Toni. The constant drama has drained her, not just mentally, but spiritually. In fact, she's made it clear, she's reached her breaking point. "At this stage in my life, I'm exhausted by my sister's behavior," she confessed. But let's really break this down. Before Tracy Braxton passed away, the sisters all made a vow to keep the peace, to put their differences aside for her sake. But we all know how that promise turned out. In reality, it's like the drama has only escalated from tense to downright toxic. Word on the street is Toni is officially checked out, emotionally drained, and ready to wash her hands of the entire mess. It gets worse. Not a single sister showed up to support Tamar at the premiere of her new cooking show. Not one. And why? Well, a massive blowout happened just days before the event, sending everything spiraling from bad to worse. Following the fallout, Towanda took to social media with a cryptic post that felt like a punch in the gut. "To everyone who distanced themselves from me, kindly stay there." But the family drama doesn't stop there. Towanda just tied the knot. With her longtime partner Shaw Hall after 9 years together, Toni and Trina showed up, looking all glam as bridesmaids, proud and polished. But guess who was MIA? Tamar. She was nowhere to be found. It's becoming clear that sides are being taken, and the divide is undeniable. Now let's rewind to a particularly awkward moment on their reality show when someone asked Towanda how she felt about not being close to Tamar anymore. The tension was palpable, and the response? Let's just say it wasn't exactly filled with warmth or love. The rift between them is more than just a small issue. It's a full-on fracture that's shaking the foundation of this family. Things got icy real quick when Tamar stepped in, claiming she was always the one reaching out, while Towanda only seemed to check in when the cameras were rolling. Towanda, as blunt as ever, wasted no time in hitting back with a line that hit hard. "I don't pour into certain vibes anymore." Translation? She's done giving Tamar the benefit of that sisterly grace. If you thought that was strong, she didn't stop there. Towanda followed up, making it crystal clear that her energy is now focused on her home, her kids, and her man. And that's it. No more room for ambiguity, no more back and forth. She's drawing her line in the sand, and it's all about her inner circle now. Towanda made it even clearer, saying, "I respect where people are. That's just what it is. I don't engage. I don't pour into certain types of energy. I make different choices in my life." Tracy's story is one of quiet pain, always simmering in the background. Her passing in 2022 left a hole in the family, but her struggles go much deeper than that. One of the most painful chapters? When she got cut from the group's early music deal simply because she was pregnant. It wasn't just business, it was personal. That kind of rejection, it sits heavy. And while Tracy always showed up with a smile, it was clear that hurt never fully healed. There's this unspoken narrative that Tracy was left behind. She was pregnant with her daughter Kelly during the 90s, a time when it seemed impossible to be a female artist and pregnant. The industry didn't allow it. Their message was simple. They wanted every woman to be admired and every man to desire them. Pregnancy didn't fit that mold. Tracy and Trina had their own hesitations, but Tracy, ever the supportive sister, told them to go ahead without her, taking the hit quietly while the others moved forward. And that tension, it didn't just sit between Tracy and Toni like some small sister drama. It ran deep. Their bond was real, but it came with bruises that never fully healed. This wasn't the kind of love you patch up with a quicks. I'm sorry, it was the kind that carried years of silence, unspoken pain, and missed chances to truly reconnect. And now that Tracy's gone, it's like all that hurt just hangs in the air, unresolved, heavy, and still there. When Toni talks about feeling drained and dried up, it's not just about the money. It's about everything. The guilt, the grief, the weight of what didn't get said, and the ache of what can never be fixed. A little more difficult. Sometimes I wake up every morning and I go, "Oh, did I dream it? Did I dream it?" And I have to remind myself, no, she's gone. It wasn't just inappropriate, it was straight up predatory. A grown man sending disturbing texts to a teenager. That's a violation of boundaries that no one should overlook. Ashley, in a moment of bravery, did exactly what any responsible young person would do. She went to the adults. Her parents immediately took action, going straight to Trina with the news. At first, Trina showed understanding and love, supporting Ashley, standing by her side. But that support didn't last. Over time, it turned from warm embraces to distance, then to subtle passive-aggressive comments, and eventually, blame. There are whispers that Trina twisted the entire situation, questioning Ashley's role in it, and even implying that Ashley should have known better. Some even suggest that Trina believes something inappropriate did happen, and somehow put the blame on Ashley. Let that sink in for a moment. A teenager comes forward, courageously speaking up about being made to feel uncomfortable by a grown man, only to have her own family turn their backs on her. Instead of offering protection, Trina distanced herself from Ashley, cutting her off completely. That left a wound so deep, so quiet, that Ashley's been carrying it for years, unseen but felt. Now, fast forward to the present. The Braxton family drama has reached a whole new level. Tamar, who's had her fair share of drama with each sister, has taken things up a notch. She's brought Ashley into the new season of Braxton Family Values. And this isn't just a one-off appearance. Ashley's not just a cameo. She's a part of the season, ready to stir the pot in a way no one saw coming. The family drama is about to get even more complicated, and Ashley's re-entry is the spark that could light a firestorm. Reportedly locked in for a real role. This season, Tamar says she brought Ashley on the show to show her some love and remind her that somebody in the family still had her back. But come on, if you've been watching this family long enough, you already know it's never that simple. Nothing with the Braxton ever is. These sisters are already knee-deep in drama.